finally. So a little bit. What now?
Sir, you have a priority target to dissect. Loading it up now.
Priority. Dear God. Let's take the Shokan Queen down.
Which of these costume vigilantes are least likely to kill you, intentionally or otherwise?
Don't listen what your girlfriend says. She reads those magazines that say you failed the test. You don't have what she needs. I'll slither like a viper and get you by the neck.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Chamber of the Wraith. My name is Brian, and today I figured it's about time I dissected one of the most infamous characters in Mortal Kombat 11's entire history. And it's not even just the character herself, because Sheeva is fantastic on her own. But it's one move in particular that has gotten people incredibly angry. That infamous Stomp. So, I have devised 4 main ways to break down the Stomp and show you exactly how to stop this lady dead in her tracks before she even achieves liftoff.
So the first thing that we need to figure out is how the heck are we going to deal with Sheeva's Stomp? And the first thing that we need to do with that is to establish what it is. It's an unblockable leap that does 10% damage every time. And there's a full second of startup, and the enhanced version can be delayed and relocated in order to predict your movement. So if I try and dash forward, I get mollywopped. As you can see, I avoided it that time, but that time I didn't. And of course, if I try and backdash, they can catch me that way if they read it as well. This only ever applies to enhanced drag and drop. If you see that your opponent is not using enhanced drag and drop in any way, then you can get a punish anytime if you time your dashes right. Some characters it might be a little more difficult to do than others, because one thing that is really tricky is that if you're too late, then you get a backdash instead of a forward dash. But a general rule of thumb is that the standard is if you can dash away from the attack, you're generally good to go. Because as you can see, once their feet are, once they go past the health bar, you can generally dash out of the way and be okay. As you can see there. But there's a couple of other attacks that work particularly well in stopping Sheeva dead in her tracks. And I'm going to put them into 2 categories: avoidance and direct counter. There are 2 examples of each that I want to talk about because they're particularly good in that role. And the first one is Air Ice Quake for Frost, because in terms of sheer avoidance capability, this is easily the best in the game. Because easy peasy lemon squeezy. Look, even when she leaves early, I can avoid it. Like, I'm even late. There's a larger window to escape than with the dash, particularly if you do a short hop. Now, you might be thinking, what about other stomp options? Well, as you can see, unless you are too early in the delay, you'll be fine. The only catch is, if you mistime it, you will get stomped on, and you won't ever get a decent punish. So, if you're having trouble with dashing, I recommend trying to pick up on Frost Air Ice Quake, because it works out surprisingly well. And don't get discouraged. Make sure you lab all of the different timings, because unfortunately, this is not the only timing to make it last 1.5 seconds. Players can generally hold the delay for a short period of time in order to fumble your dash or whatnot. So, if you have an if you see enhanced drag and drop, be mindful and be ready for it. But if you don't see enhanced drag and drop, then you should be okay to just dash and punish. Dash and punish, as you can see there. Next up, we're going to talk about a character that can not only avoid it, but do a hard punish. In terms of avoidance, Terminator's teleport, the TDE, which I believe is Time Dispersal Engine in the lore, I'm not entirely sure, is probably the best way to just straight up avoid the Stomp. Watch this. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And what's more, I can delay it for as long as I want to. Like if I hold this, See how long I'm gone for? I straight up disappear for long enough for Sheeva to try and figure out where the hell I went. And this is not a band equipable ability. The Time Dispersal Engine is one of the Terminator's sleeper picks for really good abilities, especially when you can do this. Did you see that? I was able to combo right out of it, whereas normally I wouldn't be able to. The key is I have to spend defensive bar instead of offensive bar. So I'm not able to do breakaway. But you don't ever break away from Stomp anyway. So you could do something like this. And if they're not ready for it, that is going to catch them. And remember, Terminator is a mix machine. So while that wasn't a punish, you could go for different options instead. And still get more damage than a raw Stomp. Or, of course, if you want combos... Sorry, I'm not that great with the Terminator. Give me a second. No, I know what I can do. Look at that. For one defensive bar, and technically really half of it because I get some of it back, I was able to match Amplified Stomp's damage. Now, remember, you might be thinking, what about the Crushing Blow? Well, if it ever misses, then you will never you'll never see the Crushing Blow, even if you just miss. Meaning that the Terminator is actually one of the best answers to Sheeva in the game, particularly because of this delayed teleport. Trying to beat the teleport, because the Terminator always teleports behind you, is the worst thing you can do as the Sheeva player. And of course, if you're anticipating the Stomp and read it correctly, you can easily get your punish. Or, the Sheeva player is forced to block, which gives you strike, throw, and 50-50 mix-ups. I could throw, and that time it was a straight-up punish. A low mix-up, which leads to raw combo damage. Or an overhead punish, which can lead to a string, as you can see. And if your timing and reads are incredible, or if you're just able to time it out because the Sheeva player just refuses to stop stomping, you can easily stuff Sheeva with your own teleport. So that's why I think the Terminator, in terms of just the avoidance aspect, is one of the best characters for this, because most of the time teleports don't work. But when the teleport is able to do this and still beat a Stomp, I think it's definitely got a shout for the best avoidance option, especially since you can amplify to get a combo punish, or just keep teleporting to avoid the Stomp if you got the life lead, which is a very viable strategy indeed. Also, honorable mention to Terminator's run, because it also kind of works out due to the fact that he's running. Although, you have to be careful about the delayed Stomp and mistiming it. But an honorable mention to the run and any other attacks that just get out of dodge. Sub-Zero slide, Shang Tsung's reptile slide, that kind of thing. Any sort of run away option is always a viable option indeed. But now we need to talk about straight, direct punishes for trying to do the Stomp. And there's a couple that I think you guys should definitely keep in mind of and really sink your teeth into. Now, in terms of sheer direct punishes, I was actually tipped off by this by a friend of mine who mentioned that this was a really good way to just snipe Sheeva out of the air. And when I mess around with it, it's no joke. Melina's teleport drop is incredible for this, particularly because it's effective at one thing. Even if it's whiffed and she is minus, she's never really minus enough for Sheeva to react the Sheeva has to read that Melina will miss. And if Melina doesn't miss, then she's guaranteed between 70 and 125 damage, which is always going to beat a trade, because in the scenario where Stomp and another attack trades, like, say, an uppercut, which, by the way, really good uppercuts can stop Sheeva's Stomp as well. There, perfect example of what I'm talking about. Melina took 50 damage in order to deal 140. That is a really good trade in Melina's favor, unless she is seriously lacking in the life department. But that's not necessarily the only way to deal with it. Why risk a trade to get 140 if you're on low health, instead of guaranteeing half the damage without ever getting hit? As you'll see here. As soon as I can get the timing down. Because I swear this is more consistent than I'm making it look. There we go. And of course, one other option is to jump back and then drop right on top of their head as a raw, direct punish. And as always, you can amplify for more damage, but with the teledrop, I actually wouldn't. Unless you really want to directly just take him out. Practice your timing if you're a Melina main, and you should be just fine. Plus, the Amplify always homes in, so that is a plus. So in terms of a punish, Melina's is one of the best because the worst she's ever going to be is like -9 in terms of recovery. Which, if the Sheeva doesn't expect that, can still mean that Melina can either block or risk a throw, which is not a bad option. And honorable shout out to any really good uppercuts that can potentially snipe Sheeva out of the air. D'Vorah is a really good example of this as a character. And D'Vorah actually is worth an honorable mention for another reason. And this honorable mention goes directly to D'Vorah for one of her universal special moves, which, in my labbing of this, it turns out Infested is absolutely disgusting for this. Because if you anti-air someone, if you manage to catch a Sheeva with Infested, which is very tricky to do, but if you do it, you'll get a crushing blow. It's the trickiest to land, which is why it's just an honorable mention, but if you can catch Sheeva out of her Stomp, you get a crushing blow. Which means that, of course, you get big damage, 150, just for the Stomp, and then, even though I'm not the greatest D'Vorah player, look at that, I've already basically cleaned up any loose ends. And of course, this can actually work on normal Stomp. And of course I drop it because I'm an idiot. But on normal Stomp, if you time it right, look at that. That was 44% and I dropped the combo at the end. And you might be thinking, well, what if I don't have the crushing blow? Well, you could always just... I'm going to try one more time. Well, of course, it also trades, but notice that the trade is still in D'Vorah's favor. These trades are not likely to happen, but it's worth noting. But if you do catch Sheeva, and you don't have the crushing blow, you match the damage of her Stomp at the worst, and at best, you can amplify it in order to apply damage over time to eventually match amplified Stomp. So no matter what, D'Vorah is one of the best, has probably the most varied options for beating Sheeva Stomp. Because, of course, she can do the crawl, she can risk an uppercut, which is a little bit risky because it can suck in on occasion, but she can beat the uppercut. But she is one of those characters with a godlike uppercut, so it's worth the risk, at least trying to go for it. There we go. And of course, she has Infested for both a crushing blow or just matching the damage overall. But it is a little bit but overall, these options are very tricky, which is why D'Vorah is just an honorable mention and not really worth a direct talking point. But there is a character whose anti-stomp options are so brain dead. I was absolutely stunned by how ridiculously easy it is to just out-stomp Sheeva's Stomp with this particular attack. Okay, this is the stomp to win you the game, Sheeva. If you can land this one, you're going to win the set. Let's go! Unfortunately, that's never gonna happen, because if you're a Baraka main and you're having trouble with a Sheeva player, please, oh please, consider Spine Burst, because oh my Lanta, does this thing absolutely muller Sheeva's Stomp. It basically takes it off the map as an example. So it's so good that if you are expecting a delay, 1, 2, and then you can get it every time. It's insane. And of course, if they're not wanting to deal with that and expect you to dash, hold on a second. Let's try this one instead. A little more reliability. Then you can absolutely still catch them with this. And look at that. You put them back at full screen. The reason why Spine Burst is so good is look at the range that the spines cover. It hits opponents from about as high up as Melina's dive kick does. But unlike Melina, there is a direct advantage here that no Melina player will ever dream of. Combo ability. You land this baby, you can land up to 4 of them and still get a combo in the corner. Now, I can't get that consistently, so I'm just going to do 2 for the sake of demonstration. I said for consistency. There we go. And then, there we go. Tried to stomp on me in the corner, or tried to stomp out of the corner, big mistake. You just took 43% damage after the DOT because you wanted to try and stomp on me and you were cornered. Now, if we reverse the scenario, then of course, you can still get your combos going. And as you can see, that's about 31% damage, or that's almost 30% damage just by not using the crushing blow at all. I think it's like 21%, but still, the damage is insane. Not to mention that Baraka's uppercut is also a really good option too. But again, the fact that you could get this 4 times in the corner and have the potential to continue a combo is insane. And if you're thinking about delaying, I wouldn't if I were you, because I could do it once, then twice, and about 90% of the time, I will catch you with this. And look at that. We're looking at about, I want to say almost 28% damage. Sorry, my math is not that great. But the point is that what does Sheeva get out of the deal? 10, 15%? Maybe if your timing wasn't on point, she might get 30% once. Well, every time Baraka catches Sheeva with the spikes, he will always get at least 25%, even if he drops the combo. And it's not just corner, and it's not just the corner either. Remember, this works every time that he catches Sheeva with a stomp. Every single time, no crushing blow, nothing. No need for a crushing blow in order to get this kind of damage with Baraka, as Baraka mains know. And you break away there? No big deal. I'll just uppercut. Or, if I anticipate that you're going to break away and I have the spine charge, or I have the blade charge, I can crushing blow you for even more damage. Because it resets the scaling partially, breaks through the armor, and is a crushing blow if it beats armor. For this example, I'm going to actually make an ability just to demonstrate this point. Back to the point that I wanted to make about Spine Burst and why it is the best way to shut down Sheeva. Not only is it reliable, not only does it lead to combos, it is socketable to just about anything. I mean, it's a one-slot ability that replaces Chop Chop, so you lose a big ender. But Baraka's not short on damage enders. I mean, Blade Charge, 120. Baraka Zerker, 130. Uppercut, as always, 140. So, let's put this to the test with one last piece. What if a Sheeva knows about Spine Burst and wants to break away from any combos and forgets that Baraka has Blade Charge? Oh yeah, backdash. There it is. Look at that. You want to break away? That's 36%, please. And if you don't break away, 26% 1 bar for trying to stomp on me, where the most you're gonna get is 150 most of the time, unless it's landed 3 times in a row, which I'm reasonably sure that Baraka will not allow. So
in conclusion, Sheeva Stomp is scary, but if you're looking to avoid or directly counter it, you have options. And my personal best recommendations are Frost's Air Ice Quake, the Terminator's TDE, Melina's Telekick, and particularly if you want to punish the hell out of Sheeva, Baraka's Spine Burst. I was genuinely impressed with how easily Baraka's Spine Burst handles Sheeva Stomp. Like, it doesn't even matter. You can just do it twice on the delay and still catch her for a full combo. So, with all that in mind, don't forget to be awesome. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you guys on the other side. See you around.